I'm not going to stand here in front of one of the great wonders of the world and argue about an old movie. I'll go back inside. If you figure out some plan to make $800 last a lifetime, knock on the door. I'll be in there.
You're listening to the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steinler.
All right, welcome back to Keeping Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by Bart Steinler. Just tuning in, we were talking about some myths on Social Security. If you miss any part of our show, you can always find it on our website. Just go to keepingyourmoney.com. You can also find it on any of our podcast partners. If you ever have a question for the show, feel free to shoot us an email, info at keepingyourmoney.com. Do respond to all those emails personally. And of course, you can give us a call anytime, toll free, 888-98-MONEY. That's 888-986-6639. Somebody does answer that phone 24 hours a day, and someone will get back to you to answer your question. Or if there's something you want us to talk about on the show, by all means, let us know. We're happy to oblige if it's interesting and financially related. I was listening to a show on ESPN in the morning. I can't think of what it's called, but they were doing like highlights of sports, and then he threw in this thing about a guy almost being eaten by this bear and everything. And I was like, what does that have to do with sports? So we try to keep our topics centered around financial stuff.
Right.
But yeah, let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about. So we've been talking a lot about, over the last couple of years, student loan debt. It's becoming a huge topic that we saw just this week in the Democratic debates. A lot of presidential candidates trying to come up with ways to eliminate these trillions of dollars of debt. But a lot of young people are definitely struggling with that, on top of potentially credit cards and other ways that they've funded for things. So I thought this article that showed up in the USA Today, it comes from the Motley Fool, and it really kind of has a good message to it, because it talks about the idea of, if you're getting married to someone who has a lot of debt, what does that really look like for you? Is this really something that you're willing to take on? And of course, marriage is this wonderfully romantic and, awesome thing. You've fallen head over heels for someone and you're going to spend the rest of the life with them. But we really need to address, if you're planning to spend the rest of your life with somebody who owes a couple $100,000, because that drastically changes a lot of things for you and maybe some of your plans. I mean, if you're thinking about buying a house or, having a family, I mean, that is going to be an anchor on your family for a number of years. And the first thing I think that has to be addressed in this is, you have to have this conversation. What do you owe? Who do you owe it to? And what does it cost a month for you to handle that? Because if you're not having that conversation, you're frankly not ready to get married.
Right. And I'm going to throw out another thought, because this article covered like 7 or 8 different items related to this. But the one item that I thought should have been in there that wasn't was, maybe you should postpone that wedding or call it off altogether.
Right.
And I know that sounds kind of drastic, but if you're getting ready to get married to somebody and they have a large amount of debt and they don't have a really good plan for getting it paid off, then that's going to add a lot of stress into your relationship. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I think you're the right person for me, and, I really want to do this, but, this is something that has to be taken care of first. And so if it's going to take you a year or 2 years or 3 years to get yourself into a financial position to be married, then let's just stay together for 2 or 3 years and wait until that actually happens.
Right.
Because my life experience has shown me that a lot of times, if people have problems with debt, if they overuse the credit card, if they borrow more than they should, that tends to be something that they do over and over again.
Right.
And until they learn that they have to pay something back and go through it hurts to pay something like that back. You have to make sacrifices to get it done. But if you don't have it within you to do that, it's probably not something you're going to pick up just because you got married.
Right. And everyone can make a mistake. Delaying something like a wedding gives that person time to correct that mistake. Just because you're in love with someone and want to spend the rest of your life with them does not mean you want to be saddled with their debt. Another situation is, if you do decide to proceed with the marriage, make sure you're properly protecting yourself. Now, in most instances, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to give you legal advice, of course, but in most instances, somebody comes in with debt, it's not going to translate to being your responsibility. But let's say they come in with debt, and the second year of your marriage, you decide that for the family's budget purposes, you're going to refinance that debt. Maybe you've got some equity in your home or, something of that nature. So you arrange to refinance that. Well, now you have taken ownership of that debt. You are now 50% responsible. So if the marriage unfortunately does not work out, you could find yourself as the person without debt, all of a sudden responsible for 50% of debt that occurred before you even met that person.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to really look at that stuff.
And you might even find yourself responsible for more than 50% of it.
You could, depending on earning disparities.
If they can't collect from the one person, I don't think they're going to stop at collecting 50% from the second person.
Or if one person makes significantly more than the other, the court may even rule that you could come out of it responsible for a much larger portion of it.
Right. The other thing is, right when you're going into a wedding, it's usually a time when you're spending a lot of money, because you're spending money on the wedding, you're spending the money on the party, you're spending money on a honeymoon and a trip, and all of things get done up a lot bigger than when I got married, and they spend a lot more money on a wedding. So you're really taking another big chunk of debt and adding it onto some debt that you already have, and that's probably not a good idea.
Well, and I think that's a good point, though. Even if you're not going into the wedding, maybe you're both debt-free right now, or nearly debt-free, which if you are, congratulations. How many times do we see people make the ignorant decision to acquire $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 of debt for this dream wedding? I mean, you're literally, tying a concrete block around your leg when you start your marriage by going into it in that kind of debt. If you can't save the money ahead of time, why do you think you'll be able to comfortably pay it off? I mean, it takes the same amount of discipline. So if you're not able to save, then, I'm sorry, but maybe that Cinderella wedding isn't the right idea. It's amazing to me the amount of money people spend on weddings only to go into debt for it when, less than half of marriages last more than 15 years, and some last less than 3 or 4,
Yeah.
I would be just sick to my stomach with $50,000 of debt and getting divorced 3 years from now. I mean, that just would be horrible.
Yeah.
So, maybe tone down the game plan. And I think this goes into a lot of things we talk about, Bart, when we're talking about planning, retirement planning, things like that. Sometimes delaying the instant gratification is what is necessary to be successful long term, right? This is a great first opportunity for you and your new spouse to do that together. This is a great opportunity to say, I would love to have a wedding on the beach in Mexico, but the reality is we can afford a wedding in my mom's backyard, and that's what we need to do. Let's make Mexico our 10-year anniversary plan, and we'll save for it, and it'll be that much more special when we go because we won't have to pay back all this debt we've acquired to make it happen.
Right. And you'll find when you have events like that the fun that you enjoy in those events is over in a matter of hours. There's probably a 6-hour span where you're really having a great time, and you're looking at 10 years on paying for it.
Sure. I mean, I went to some weddings that I had a blast at, and I might have woke up with a little hangover the next morning, but I didn't wake up with a $50,000 hangover. I'll tell you that.
Right.
I have never enjoyed a wedding that I would have spent $50,000 to attend. So,
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes we get caught up in this stuff, and it's just a bad start to your relationship when you go in the hole right from the very beginning, and I think it starts a bad habit right from the very beginning of not being a team in your financial affairs and realizing that your real goal is to make sure someday you can both retire comfortably. If you're getting married and you're in your mid-20s, man, that wedding's the last thing you need to be spending money on. You got a long road ahead of you for saving because you are going to be 100% responsible for your retirement. And the quicker you can get, just think about what $50,000 at 25 dropped into an investment account and never touched to 65 could do for you versus what that 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock party was like. You know, I mean, if ever there was an argument for delayed gratification, that would be it. I mean, that is a big deal. I mean, you're talking if you average 7% rate of return over that period of time, and we won't go into taxes and all that, but you know, that 50, let's see, that 50 becomes 100, becomes 2, becomes 4. You're at 800,000 when you retire, probably. I've never been to an $800,000 party.
Here's another thing. Before you go off and spend $50,000 at a wedding, find someone who's been married 35, 45, 55 years. Ask them to pull out their wedding album and go through and see how many of the people they still stay in touch with.
Yeah, very true. There's people in wedding photos I've seen that nobody even knows who they are. You know, so
we have one in ours.
Yeah. A date?
Yeah.
Somebody brought a date?
Yeah.
That's always the best ones.
She's in about 6 of the pictures.
That's funny. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about understanding what safe and risk really mean when it comes to investing right here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
Is your 401k sturdy enough to help support your retirement goals? The Keeping Your Money Show has a team of advisors that will help you size up the assets currently in your 401k and explore asset allocation based on your goals. Call the Keeping Your Money Show today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to learn how you can start solidifying your foundation for a strong retirement plan.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Cole Bear, filling in for Smokey because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
With area unemployment rates at all-time lows, recruitment is a growing concern for manufacturing companies. Free up manpower assigned to repetitive tasks and maximize your workforce's skills. Optimize efficiency with robotic automation that run continuously to keep your business moving. Industrial Control, right here in West Michigan, can create a customized automation plan for your business. Contact Industrial Control today at industrialcontrol.com. That's industrialcontrol.com.
Are you a collector of investments? Do you save diligently every week into your 401k, but realize you really have no idea if it's going to be enough? I'm Jamie Westenbarger, host of the Keeping Your Money Show, and I want to help. In as little as 1 hour, we can have an income distribution plan designed just for you. Call us anytime at 888-98-MONEY for your free consultation, or visit us on the web at keepingyourmoney.com.